Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and talk about things that are going on, to better explain what's going on, and talk about things that I think that are being done right and or done wrong. Here we go.
The following presentation is intended to help bring context to the...
Alright, let me bump this up to HD because wanting to keep it in a lower setting for some reason.
The facts surrounding this case. The following presentation contains a map of the location, body-worn camera video, and photos of the scene. Some of the audio and video has been edited to protect the privacy of the victims involved and to avoid release of information that state law prohibits the Sheriff's Office from releasing. The redactions and edits do not affect the depiction of events presented in this video. Some of the audio and visuals we are about to present may be disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. On the morning of December 2nd, 2022 at approximately 3:30 a.m., an officer-involved shooting occurred near the intersection of Desert Street and Locust Street in Rosamond, California. The following is audio of a 911 call made by a resident of the Sierra Vista Mobile Home Park.
911, what is the address of your emergency?
2421 Sierra Highway.
What's going on?
I'm at work right now, but my wife, she was looking at our cameras, and I'm also looking at the cameras, and there's someone walking around trying to break into the cars. One alarm from a car a little bit down, a couple of chairs down already went off, and he walked up towards my vehicles also.
Be able to provide a description of the individual?
He is wearing a black hoodie, gray sweatpants. It looks like yellow or lime greenish shoes, and he's carrying something in his hand. But
we'll get somebody out there as soon as we can.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
The following is audio of another 911 call from a resident of the Sierra Vista Mobile Home Park.
911, what is the address of the emergency?
Yeah, hi. It's 2421 Sierra Highway. There's a guy outside. He's wearing black shorts and a hoodie, and he's checking my neighbor's car to open it, and he's into mine, but I put my alarm on the car.
And you said he was a male wearing a black shirt and what color shorts?
It's a black hoodie with a white shirt under and black shorts.
Okay. And how long ago did you see him?
Probably like a minute ago. I was live on my camera because I saw another guy suspicious. He had something on his hand, a gray silver piece.
Okay, thank you for the information. We'll have somebody out there as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Kern County Sheriff's Office East Area deputies responded to multiple reports of a subject attempting to break into cars and setting off alarms at the Sierra Vista Mobile Home Park located at 2421 Sierra Highway in Rosamond, California. When they arrived in the area, deputies saw a subject matching the description walking northbound on Diamond Street and attempted to make contact with him. The suspect, later identified as Edgar Rojas, age 19, began running northbound on Diamond Street, then westbound through a business parking lot and into the alley between Diamond Street and Desert Street. One of the deputies responded to the trailer park to determine if a crime had been committed. Deputy Valdez continued following Rojas, who began walking in the east alley of Desert Street. The following is video surveillance of Rojas just prior to the officer-involved shooting. When Rojas exited the alley, he began walking westbound on Locust Street towards Desert Street. When Deputy Valdez exited the alley and began to turn westbound on Locust Street, Rojas shot at Deputy Valdez in his patrol vehicle once.
Control 187, I'll be following the subject. He's on Locust and Desert.
10-4.
Shots fired, shots fired.
Copy, shots fired. Code 33 on the patch for East 7.
Rojas then fled westbound on Locust Street, then northbound on Desert Street. Deputy Valdez then pursued Rojas.
Control 187, I'm here.
Copy, E7 is hit. phone. I'm with E7 and he's been hit in the head. Can you start control 3? Affirmative, we're starting them now.
The following is footage from the department-issued body-worn camera of Deputy Valdez. Please note the body-worn camera does not capture everything the deputy sees, and the deputy does not see everything the body-worn camera captures.
Alright, so I'm going to back it up a little bit.
Control 3. Affirmative, we're starting.
This right here. So I'm going to suspect that they probably use a drone to capture this image. That's a pretty cool thing about drones is they can get a pretty good altitude and give you a great overall aerial shot of the scene right after something's happened. Used to be, and in some places it may still go on, when agencies wanted to get a good aerial view, like a good overshot of everything, they would enlist the help of the fire department, and they'd get their ladder truck out there and they'd send the ladder up as high as it would go, and an officer would be in there in the bucket and then take pictures looking down on the scene. Drones, now, the fire department doesn't have to be bothered. They can continue to stay inside the station playing Xbox and doing whatever the fuck else is they do. And you can get higher than what a ladder truck could potentially get and get a better overall view of that scene. So pretty cool with that. Of course, they did an overlay here and added the route of travel, showing the suspect's route of travel going here, and then the officer's route of travel there, and then back to his vehicle. You can see a group of officers out here doing what's called a line search. So basically what a line search is it should be more even than this instead of being spread out, but you create a line of people and there's a little bit of distance in between each person, and they start from point A and they move to point B, and as they are walking through this grid area, or whatever is defined as a search area, and they are almost shoulder to shoulder, they are increasing their probability of detection of whatever it is they're looking for. So I would imagine that they are probably looking for casings or other kind of evidence right out here in the open, and doing this the most efficient way possible with such a large area like this. You just create a line of people and move them from here to there, and it's a lot more effective than having one person walk out here and they walk around in circles or doing whatever trying to find something. It requires more people, but it's a hell of a lot more effective at finding things.
And now.
The following is footage from the department-issued body-worn camera of Deputy Valdez. Please note the body-worn camera does not capture everything the deputy sees, and the deputy does not see everything the body-worn camera captures.
So at this point, that he's already kind of been clued into this person. He was following him for a good little bit down the alley. He should have already had his body camera activated. There's really no good excuse for it not even being activated before this occurs. Dude matches the description. He knows he's about to get out with him. Should already have had the camera activated and on recording. Had he forgot to activate the camera when he did at this point, and it ended up going a little bit later, he might have ended up missing some critical stuff. He already missed some stuff, but he may end up missing more critical stuff that could help exonerate him and or help speed up the legal fight process. So he has had to, there's 3 fights. There's the physical fight where you, in the moment, you got to fight for your life. And then after you've won that fight, then you've got the mental fight. If the person that you've had to fight ends up dying, you have the mental fight, having to deal with that, and then you've got the legal fight. As a general rule, killing people is a bad thing. That's what society says. As a general rule, it is bad to kill people. But there are exceptions. And because there are exceptions, every homicide, even when it appears to be justifiable, it has to be investigated. So even though he's protected himself, someone has to go out there and preserve evidence, look at it, analyze it, and say, yep, we agree. Or present that to a grand jury, and the grand jury's like, yep, we agree too. He did nothing wrong. He defended himself. He's okay. So when you forget to turn your damn camera on, or you neglect not to turn it on when you should be turning it on, you create the possibility that you could lose critical evidence that could help exonerate you and speed up that legal process. Turn the cameras on more frequently. If you end up catching hours of bullshit, then so what? You end up capturing hours of bullshit on recording. It's easy to dock your camera, upload all the footage, wipe the camera, and then get back out there. Yeah, you may have to spend time tagging each video and, saying that, this one needs to be, deleted, this one needs to be deleted, this one needs to be saved, blah, blah, blah. You have more tagging to do. But that is better than having no critical video at all.
Deputy Valdez exited his...
Back this up again.
Deputy Valdez exited his patrol vehicle and began to pursue Rojas on foot. As Deputy Valdez neared the intersection of Desert Street and Locust Street, Rojas began shooting at Deputy Valdez, and an officer-involved shooting occurred. During the officer-involved shooting, Deputy Valdez was struck in the head. Deputy Valdez was able to seek cover behind his patrol vehicle. Rojas fled the scene into the neighborhood. Deputies requested assistance from allied agencies. The following is footage from a department-issued body-worn camera of a deputy on scene.
There he is! He's fighting across the street! In that house!
Where?
Right there. You see the archway? He just ran right there.
Okay, stand right here. Kneel down. Where were you right here when you got shot?
I was just up at the corner.
Were you out on foot?
Yes.
Do you think he went westbound?
No, he ran to the house right across the street. Hey, get out of here! Now! Control 7.
You're fine.
Suspect will be armed for the handgun. Damn it, my head hurts.
I know. I'm gonna put this gauze on there, okay?
Yeah.
What a bad motherfucker, man. Gets shot in the head, gets his shotgun out, and then just nonchalantly says, man, my head hurts. Let's back this up.
Damn it, my head hurts.
I know. I'm gonna put this gauze on there, okay?
Yeah. How bad is it?
You're fine.
Grazed me?
Grazed, but...
Took some meat?
Yeah.
Tragic.
I fucking love this dude. Oh, man.
How bad is it?
You're fine.
Grazed me?
Grazed, but...
Took some meat?
Yeah.
Tragic.
California Highway Patrol and Los Angeles Sheriff's Department responded to the area and assisted in setting a perimeter around the area where Rojas was believed to be contained. SWAT team and detectives were called out. Deputy Valdez was transported to Antelope Valley Hospital and sustained a 2 to 3 inch gunshot wound on the left side of his head. At approximately 7:30 a.m., Edgar Rojas was located in the 2900 block of Desert Street, uninjured and arrested without further incident. During his arrest, Rojas was found to be in possession of a ghost gun. Edgar Rojas was booked into Kern County Central Receiving Facility on charges of tampering with a motor vehicle, prowling, discharging a firearm in a negligent manner, possession of a firearm without a serial number, possession of a loaded firearm in public, attempted murder with a deadly weapon, assault on a peace officer, and obstructing and resisting an executive officer.
Okay, so again, here's some charges that are different sounding than ones here in Kentucky, and one that we don't even have. Like, I've never heard of a tampering with a motor vehicle kind of charge. So I'm assuming that this would obviously be going around trying handles on a car and stuff like that. In Kentucky, we don't have any law that covers anything like that. So technically, it's not even against the law for someone to go around trying handles on a vehicle. So that one's kind of cool. I like that. That kind of gives you more to play with there.
Here is a photo of the gun Edgar Rojas shot the day.
Okay, so a ghost gun with a sight and an absence of any iron sights. Go fucking figure. All right, so a ghost gun. What is a ghost gun? Well, what you're looking at, of course, is a ghost gun, and we have to understand some terminology here. So this piece right here, the darker black piece, that's the slide. This gray plastic looking piece is called the frame. The frame is what is considered to be the firearm. When you go to a gun store and you buy a gun, this is the piece of the gun that is being recorded down as being the gun piece itself. So if you go into a gun store and you buy just this piece right here, you have to do paperwork on it, like you were buying the complete gun. If you go into a gun store and you buy just this piece up here, the slide, even a complete slide with barrel and everything in it, if you just buy this top piece right here, you don't have to do any paperwork on that. It's not considered a firearm. So a ghost gun kit comes with, of course, that and this, but this piece down here does not have these holes for these pins in it. These are uncut. There are no holes. It's just plastic. What you see right here would be right there. And of course, all the pieces that's inside this lower piece are outside of it, like they're not even assembled yet. So when this frame does not have those holes cut into it, it is considered to be an 80% lower. Therefore, it's not a firearm at that point, because you cannot make it work. You cannot put pieces inside this thing and get it to work. So that's how they're getting around, or this company's getting around with selling these things and not having to do background checks on people, etc. So you buy the kit, it comes with all the stuff in it that you need, but you don't have any holes in there. The kit comes with a jig that you pop that frame down into, and it secures it in place, holds it down tight, doesn't let it wiggle or move any inside of it. And inside this jig, once you clamp it in there, there's holes in the jig to guide you on where you need to take your drill press and press into it and drill down into the gun. And of course, it comes with the different size bits to make these holes for the pins. And that's how you make your own gun. So you buy everything as a kit. Everything right here comes with it. It comes with a jig and the drill bits, and then you just make the holes yourself. And then, once those holes are made, that's when it legally becomes a firearm. I'm not a big fan of the build your own kind of thing. Personally, I think it's better to go with a reputable manufacturer, like Glock, HK, SIG, Smith & Wesson, and just buy an out-of-the-box, off-the-shelf gun. Glock. Any store you go to, buy a Glock, it's going to work. Yeah, you put this thing together from the kit, it can work, but is it going to be as reliable? I don't know. For playing on the range and doing competition stuff, I could see this being a fun toy to play with. I would not dedicate something like this for serious save your life kind of stuff. But the criminals out there, they use these things, and even in this case, he got a hit on an officer with it. But it doesn't mean that he has not experienced some degree of malfunctions or something like that with this gun. Some of the criminals are smart enough to be able to do all this stuff on their own. Some of them aren't. Some criminals, they have difficulty chewing bubblegum and walking at the same time. There are probably some criminals out there who are smart enough to do all this stuff. They buy a bunch of these kits, they make a bunch of guns, and then they resell them. So they, in essence, basically become an unlicensed gun dealer. Here on the slide, you can see that it has an optic on there, but there are no actual iron sights on the gun. So this, I don't know if this particular person who had this bought the kit as it was, put it together, and they did everything to it, or they just bought it the way it was. Or, some gun enthusiast person could have had this kit, had it together as a range toy or something like that, and then this guy going around checking cars found this, stole it, and now he's got it. I wish that when videos like this come out, they would do a little bit more explaining on how the person came into possession of that gun. Was it stolen? Did they make it themselves? Did they, whatever. Like, I wish there was some more information there. The optic on there, I mean, this is obviously not going to be any good, high-quality optic. This is, probably one of the cheapest things out there. You can tell it's very cheap. It's not something, again, that I would be trusting my life to. If anything, this is just a range toy. But it was used on the streets, and it was used to get a hit on an officer. Now, I kind of doubt that the guy was aiming the way he should be and targeting the officer. I think the guy just got lucky, pointing the gun in the officer's general direction, popping off rounds without actively aiming through the sight. I think he just got lucky. And the officer himself got lucky that the round was not an inch or more to the side, or else it would not have been a grazing round like it was.
Deputy with. Deputy Michael Valdez was placed on routine administrative leave pending the completion of the investigation. Kern County Sheriff's Office homicide detectives investigate any use of deadly force by any member of the department. The investigation has been submitted to the Kern County District Attorney's Office for criminal review. On January 11, 2023, the Kern County Sheriff's Office convened a critical incident review board examining the use of force in this incident. The use of force in this case was determined to be within department policy. Anyone with information regarding sustained a 2 to 3.
Yeah, so he's got a pretty good wound tract right there. Get a little chunk coming out. Let's go back into the shooting part. We'll see this again.
Deputy Valdez exited his patrol vehicle and began to pursue Rojas on foot. As Deputy Valdez neared the intersection of Desert Street and Locust Street, Rojas began shooting at Deputy Valdez, and an officer-involved shooting occurred. During the officer-involved shooting, Deputy Valdez was struck in the head. Deputy Valdez was able to seek cover behind his patrol vehicle. Rojas fled the scene into the neighborhood. Deputies requested assistance from allied agencies. The following is footage from a department-issued body-worn camera of a deputy on scene.
There he is! He's fighting across the street! In that house!
So, first off, he says, there he is, running across the street. I don't know if there's any other people on scene or not, other than just this other deputy that came here to give him some aid. But if there's other people there and he's taking off running, and there's a good visual, then someone needs to be moving forward to deal with that. Could he have done that? Yes, he could have. I mean, there has been a time frame that has elapsed. So at this point, it is at 3:34. Let's back it up to the point that the shooting occurred. 3:33. So it's not that long after someone else got there. But he's still up moving around. He was able to get his shotgun out, which I like that. This is a gunfight at this point. He knows he needs something better than a pistol, so he's gotten his shotgun out, prepared in case this guy comes back. That's a good fighting mindset right there. Could he have started to pursue after that guy? Yes, he could have. But he doesn't know the extent of his own injury. All he knows is he's been shot in the head. At any moment, he could collapse from blood loss. He could go unconscious. So I can't blame him for not going off and going that way, because he could become incapacitated at random, fall down, and then now they're going to have to pull him out of the hot zone back to cover. Even before, after being shot, I could kind of understand why he didn't continue to pursue the guy. He's been hit. He does not know the extent of his injury. If he continues to pursue the guy, he could collapse, fall between two houses, become unconscious, no one be able to reach him. He's unable to communicate to anyone to tell him where he's at. The bad guy could come back up to him, and he could have a surviving wound that he just passed out from, and then the bad guy could go ahead and complete the job, put two more into his head where he won't ever come back, and then take his gun and radio and take off. So can't fault the guy at all for not continuing the pursuit after the first round and then not wanting to go after him this time around right here. But if there was anyone else there, they definitely should have started beating feet going towards where they saw the guy at. This officer that's coming up has some medical gear, and from the looks of it, from the package, it's going to be a looks like a chest seal. So a chest seal on the head is not necessarily something that is going to be very useful. This is something that is for your chest when you have a hole put into your thoracic cavity, and is meant to prevent a tension pneumothorax from occurring.
There he is! He's fighting across the street! In that house.
Where?
Right there. You see the archway? He just ran right there.
Okay, stand right here. Kneel down. Where were you right here when you got shot?
I was just up at the corner.
Were you out on foot?
Yes.
Do you think he went westbound?
No, he ran to the house right across the street. Hey, get out of here! Now! 27. Suspect will be armed.
Alright, so now she's decided to get some other kind of medical stuff out. She's got a dressing here. Look like it said quick clot on it.
Damn it, my head hurts.
I know. I'm gonna put this gauze on it, okay?
Yeah. How bad is it?
You're fine.
Grazed me?
Grazed, but
Took some meat.
yeah.
Tragic.
I fucking love that. This guy's a fucking badass, man. Fucking gets shot in the head and then jokes about it. Fucking badass. So the wound to his head.
Deputy Valdez was transported to.
The dressing that she got out would have been suffice, I think, to just wrap around his head, kind of like a bandana type of deal, to cover that wound. Even something as like a pressure dressing, even though you wouldn't need the pressure from it, just a big pressure dressing, I think, could have been applied over this wound right here, and then do the wrap on it. But just regular gauze, just wrapping it around the head, would have been good. Of course, it looked like it was the gauze that has the quick clot in it, so that's obviously going to be even better. And that's it. That's all you can do for a wound like that, is just wrap it up. It's that simple. And he is truly lucky. If that round had been a couple inches towards this way, instead of just grazing alongside his head, it could be entering his cranial vault and going into his brain there. And as I said, I think it was a lucky shot on the bad guy's part. I kind of doubt that he was actually aiming correctly through the gun. I think he was just fucking popping rounds at the officer and got a lucky hit on. But yeah, shout out to this Deputy Valdez, fucking badass Deputy of the Year, getting shot in the head and then cracking jokes about it. Could he have rendered aid to himself? Potentially. But it's going to be difficult for you to assess what kind of injury you have if you can't see your own damn head. If he had gauze or something like that in the vehicle, could he have wrapped his own head wound up? Yes, he could have. But like I said, again, it's going to be hard to assess your own injury. Now, of course, there's mirrors in the vehicle and everything. You could have looked in the mirror and got a good look at it. But he's in the hot zone, right? There's still a bad guy out there who could come back. And so he still has to maintain security over that scene to make sure that he doesn't get ambushed by the bad guy wanting to come back to finish the job. But medical equipment and knowledge is something that is vitally important. Having the equipment is one thing, but having the knowledge on how to use it is another thing. You can still have medical equipment and not fully know how to use it, and it's still useful. Someone else on scene may know exactly how to use that stuff, and they could immediately put it to use, and it be very beneficial. So even if you do not have a good in-depth knowledge of medicine or pre-hospital trauma care, I still think that it would be important for you to buy medical gear. Get a tourniquet, get a pressure bandage, get the quick clot bandage stuff, chest seals, etc. Get a blowout kit, a trauma kit. Even if you don't know how to use it, like I said, someone else may know how to use it, and it could be useful for them to get that stuff and put it into play. So get the gear, but also go get the training. If you're going to carry a gun for a living, then you should also carry medical equipment with that. If you're going to carry the tools to induce trauma, you should also carry the tools to reduce trauma. A lot of agencies, a lot of companies will do the bare minimum of CPR, AED, first aid. That stuff is realistically only good for the CPR, AED knowledge. The first aid stuff that comes with that, I've taught both American Heart Association and also American Red Cross. The curriculum that comes with that for the first aid stuff, it's very minimal. It's very watered down kind of material. It's decent information, but it's just basically boo-boo first aid kind of information. When you start getting into trauma caused by weapons, that is stuff that you're going to need a better knowledge in medicine in. For example, the American Red Cross curriculum, of course, it goes over, environmental emergencies, hypothermia, hyperthermia. It goes over anaphylactic shock, how to assist someone with giving them their EpiPen, people having, breathing problems, how to assist them if they have an inhaler, stuff like that. It goes over trauma stuff, but it only goes over like a basic, like if you cut your arm on a corner or something, like how to wrap your arm with a bandage. It does not go into any detail about how to use tourniquets, how to use chest seals, none of that shit. So that's where the CPR AED first aid classes kind of fail at. They don't do that good of a job for getting someone prepared on how to treat battlefield type injuries. So to get that good working knowledge, you need to take a TCCC type of course, Tactical Combat Casualty Care. This is a type of course or block of instruction that is going to be more realistic for the injuries that you're going to encounter in a gunfight or another violent attack. When you look at standard first aid stuff from the stateside, from the 70s up to now, the way it's done is a little bit different than how TCCC approaches things. So TCCC started out in the late 90s and really became fine-tuned during the 2000s with the Afghanistan and Iraq wars. And stateside, before, Operation Enduring Freedom kicked off, it was a normal mindset from EMS training and operations that a tourniquet is a last resort thing. Like, I remember when I went through EMT school, it was taught that tourniquet is like the last resort fucking thing. Like, if you put a tourniquet on, someone's probably going to lose their arm or leg, and it's a very last resort thing. Well, now, after several years of warfare and several years of actual use of these things, that mindset's gone, or at least mostly gone all the way. There might be still some people out there who believe that shit, but those myths have been debunked. We now know that tourniquets are not a last resort option. They are a first resort option when it comes to arterial bleeding. We know that you can have a tourniquet on someone for an hour or more, and that person still gets to keep their limb. So before these Iraq and Afghanistan wars kicked off, what were people drawing this information from? Well, they were looking back at older stuff that had older medical technology, like fucking Civil War. Yeah, that was a way different time back then. Medical technology of today, even late 90s, was not obviously the same as it was back then. Back then, when someone had a tourniquet put on, they did end up losing a limb, but it wasn't because of the use of the tourniquet. It's because of other things going on. But all that old data stayed around. Those old mindsets stayed around. And it wasn't until the Iraq wars that people became more educated. They got to see firsthand that, hey, this idea that we should use a tourniquet last is pretty fucking stupid. They work great. So, how TCCC differs from normal first aid stuff is the acronym of MARCH. So TCCC follows MARCH. M is for massive hemorrhaging. That's what you're going to be treating first when you come across an injured person. Massive hemorrhaging is the leading cause of death on the battlefield. That's what people end up dying from. They bleed out. Right? Now, when I say this, you also have to think about, the data set involved in TCCC and why it drives those tactics. In the battlefield, you have more than just small arms. You got fucking landmines, improvised explosives, rockets, hand grenades, etc. Right? Do we have that here in the U.S.? No, not yet. But we still have small arms. And even from just small arms, even if you look at that in the battlefield overseas and you take out all that other stuff and you just look at the people who've been shot with small arms, you still see people bleeding to death. So you start with M, March, massive hemorrhaging, then you go in the airway and the respirations and into the person's circulation, and then the hypothermic. So you start off with the bleeding first, whereas in stateside EMS, basic first aid stuff, you start with A, airway. You do ABCs, right? So the TCCC training is more realistic for these injuries, and there's years of warfare to prove that it is a great way of doing things. So you need to find a TCCC type of class. It don't have to be called TCCC, but it needs to be something that's geared towards dealing with gunshot wounds and stuff like that. It doesn't need to be an American Red Cross or American Heart Association first aid class that all you have. You need to have something beyond that. You need to get practice with putting on tourniquets. You need to do a few repetitions of that. You need to practice putting on chest seals. You need to actually run through a package or two of chest seals and putting them on a person to get the understanding of how to apply them and stuff like that. Same with the bandages and stuff like that. A good medical class will have you open an actual trauma bag and use all the fucking shit that's in that bag. Yeah, are you technically burning through and wasting through stuff? Yeah, technically. But it's better that you do that in the training environment and learn how these things work. Like when you open up a chest seal, you should not have to sit there and stare at it and wonder how you get it to work, how you peel the damn thing apart and where you stick it at and like that. You need to learn that stuff in the class. You need to experience opening the thing, pulling it out, figuring out what it looks like, how sticky the stuff is, all that, right? You need to do that in the classroom. That way, if you have to use that stuff in the field, it's not the first time you're using that stuff. The first time you get to use it should be in the classroom. And when you have to use it in the field, it goes a whole lot smoother. So medical gear, you should always be carrying medical gear on you, like I said. Now, are you able to carry a whole trauma kit on you? No, you're not able to carry a whole trauma kit on you, but you can carry some minimal things on you. If there's going to be one thing that you carry, it should probably be a tourniquet, because like I said, massive hemorrhaging is the leading cause of death in the battlefield. So if you want to carry one thing, carry a tourniquet. If you want to carry some additional things, great. I highly suggest that you do that. You can get a medical ankle holster that will hold a bunch of stuff, and it wraps around your ankle just like an ankle holster for a gun, and it doesn't take up a whole lot of space. It doesn't print a whole lot at all, really, and you can have a good amount of little medical gear on you to deal with most problems. If you have an outer vest and you're allowed to have an IFAK pouch on there, then by all means do that. If not, you can still have a smaller pouch on there, maybe like a single AR mag pouch with a flap on top that you could put a modified blowout kit inside of it, and it be right there on the vest, able to use whatever. You can get smaller kits that you can put in your pocket. So if you wear cargo pockets, you can always have a kit in your cargo pocket that you're able to use. And why it's so important to have it on you is you may not always be near your vehicle. So in this particular case, let's say he continued to chase that guy and went in between the houses, and then that's where he got shot. And let's say instead of being shot in the head, he got shot in the leg and got shot in the femoral. Well, if he got shot in the femoral and he's in between the houses and he's, 50, 100 yards away from his police car, and that's where all his medical gear is, how is he going to treat himself? He's not going to be able to treat himself. He could bleed out in 90 seconds. What if that round hit him in the femur and cracked that bone, and he's unable to run back to the car? Is he going to be able to crawl to that car in time to get a tourniquet? No. And then people will say, well, he could improvise it with his gun belt or take his belt off and make a tourniquet out of that. That's not a good option. That should not be your first resort option right there. You should have a tool on you that is made for doing that. And you're not going to get a good compression with a belt anyway. Especially not a duty belt. There's just too much fucking shit on it, and it's too damn thick to do anything. Your inner belt depends on what your inner belt is made out of and what it is. If it's one of those thicker Velcro style inner belts, you're probably not going to be able to get good enough compression on it, because it's not going to bend and bind the way you need to get it to constrict around the leg, because it's just too damn thick. Most other pant belts, same thing. You're not going to be able to get it to constrict or bend and bind the way you need it to, because it's just the way it's designed. And then if you're unable to get the constriction that you need, you're still going to bleed out. And now you're going to bleed out with your pants down your fucking ankles, because you've took all your belts off, and now your pants won't stay up. And what if the bad guy comes back at that point? Now you're at a really bad position. You're unable to move because your pants are down around your ankles. Nothing's holding your pants up. Your belts are off. Your gun belt's off to the side. Like, that's a bad predicament to be in. So that's why you need to have the tools to do these things, and not just rely off the mindset of, well, if I need a tourniquet, I'll just take my belt off. That ain't gonna fucking work. So the medical gear that you carry for you, it needs to be on you all the time. Now, you can still have extra gear in the car. I call that second line gear, supplemental gear. That's used to supplement what you've already used on you and or to use on other people. Whatever gear that you have on you should be reserved for just you and or your teammates, no one else. Bad guys, they do not get to use your first line gear. Fuck them. They can wait to get the supplemental gear. The only time your first line gear should ever be used on anyone else, and I'll start with the bad guy. The only time your first line gear should ever be used on the bad guy is if you have no less than a platoon of officers there as backup securing the scene. Because you do not want to get yourself into a position where it's just you and another officer. You're the only one with a tourniquet. You put a tourniquet on the bad guy, and then boom, his buddy comes around the corner, pissed off that you shot his friend, his brother, whatever, and they start shooting at you, and then you get hit in the fucking leg, and now you got a femoral bleed. What are you going to do at that point? Are you going to take your tourniquet off that bad guy and put it on you? That blood-soaked tourniquet and put it on you? Probably not. So that's why I say your first-line medical gear does not get used on bad guys. The only exception to that is if there's a fucking platoon of officers there to secure that scene, and there's a highly increased likelihood that there are more tourniquets on hand to be able to go around in case anyone else gets injured. As far as other random people, when it comes to kids, of course I would break that rule, even if there is not a whole lot of other people there, and I'm just kind of by myself, or there's maybe one or two other people. I would use it on a kid. As far as adults, I would be a little bit more hesitant. And would rather want to reserve them for having the supplemental gear. You know, other adults have the ability to learn about these things. Other adults have the ability to get on the internet, learn first aids, you know, find classes, go buy this stuff on their own, take training, etc. They neglect to do it. It's not my fault. They neglected to better themselves. Kids don't have that opportunity, right? Like, they may be able to look online and find out stuff, but they don't have jobs to go out, make money, and then go buy all this medical shit and then go to these classes and stuff like that. So that's why I say that kids 100% do not have to wait for a bunch of other stuff. Like, if I see some kid, you know, bleeding out from a femoral hit or something like that, yeah, they're going to get my one and only tourniquet put on them, even if there's still an active threat out there, or potential for an active threat out there. If there's an actual active threat going on, of course, you know, deal with that first. But, you know, you don't see any active threat right there in front of you. There's the potential for one out there. I'm still more likely going to put it on that kid, because that kid doesn't have the same opportunities as other adults, and because they're a kid. Alright, so that's it. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense, thank you for watching.